We don't say that if you're still making sperm, that your testosterone is normal. We don't tell them that you have to be over the age of 35 or 55 to start testosterone therapy. So like, why do we do it for women? And 25-year-old man, that he needs testosterone therapy, we don't really question that. But we say, wow, 35-year-old woman struggling? That's really young.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Thrive State Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. V, triple board certified MD and performance and longevity expert. And on today's podcast, I have very important health information if you are a woman or have women in your life, whether it be a daughter, a friend, coworkers, your partner. You're going to want to listen to this because we go deep into a issue that many women face when they have symptoms of fatigue, brain fog, loss of hair, low libido, etc. And you'll want to know more of this information so that you can uplevel yourself or the people in your life around you who are women. Now, before we dive into the content of this podcast, let me welcome everybody here. If this is your first time, I am Dr. V, and every week I get an opportunity to share my thoughts, but also be able to interview thought leaders, experts in the fields of longevity, peak performance, and human potential. And I know a lot of you have been following me for a while. And if you would like to dive, if you want to pick my brain, let me give you free access to the digital version of me. Go to mythrivestate.com/biohack, and you can get access to the digital version of me where you can ask me any questions on health, on wellness, on performance, on longevity, on spirituality, on relationships. That digital AI is there to support you. Also, receive free performance and longevity materials by going to thrivestatestarter.com. And if you haven't already, pick up my book, Thrive State. It has been a bestseller in preventative health and in longevity by going to thrivestatebook.com. Now, on to today's podcast. You know, women's health is something that is near and dear to my heart because I have so many women in my life. Not only my mother, who is in her mid-70s, looking to, improve her energy, her mental performance, but I have a partner who, currently is dealing with a lot of fatigue issues, stress issues, etc. And she's right around the perimenopausal age. Not only that, I am a father to a bonus daughter, a daughter, and actually also have a female puppy. So there's a lot of women in my life. And if you are a woman or if you have women in your life, you'll want to listen to this podcast because it covers a very deep issue as it pertains to women's health. We go through hormone replacement therapy, talk about the myths around hormone replacement therapies, and also talk about the limitations that conventional medicine has in terms of what it has offered in the past when it comes to symptoms of low hormones in someone's body. So I think anyone will benefit from listening to this podcast, particularly if you're a woman and have women in your life. And hey, we all came from a woman. And so I'm sure that the information on this podcast is going to serve you and the people around you very well. So ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy this conversation with myself and Dr. Sarah Daccarett. Sarah Daccarett, welcome to the Thrive State Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So great to have you. I have a partner who is in her early 40s, and so much of what we're going to talk about today, I think, is going to be so enlightening for her. But before we dive into women's health, before we dive into hormones, before we dive into the concept of menopause, we have a portion of the show called the 5 to Thrive. 5 quick questions that instantaneously come into my consciousness, kind of fun, 30-second answers at most. Each question worth 1,000 points. And if you win the 5 to Thrive, the next time we meet in real life, you get a healthy meal on me.
Nice. No pressure.
All right. So are you ready to play the 5 to Thrive?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Question number 1 is, who did Sarah want to be as a child?
I don't know. I didn't even have any aspirations as a child. That's so funny. Like, I just loved science and math. And that was like all that was like my world was math and science, really, as a child.
Oh, wow. All right. That's really neat.
A massive nerd my entire life.
1,000 points there. Second question to you is if I were to put you on stage in front of 150,000 people, handed you a mic to sing a karaoke song, which song would that be?
Oh man, I have no idea. Like a terrible singer. This is really bad.
What would you join in on?
Oh, anything like I really like Swedish metal, actually,
Oh,
music.
wow.
So
All
yep.
right.
So I think anything that would like AC/DC, even like some of the older, I mean, come on.
Wow.
I'm
Okay.
like born in the 80s, like Led Zeppelin. Let's come on.
Let's go. Okay. Question number three was what one book, quote, or phrase entered your life and immediately had you rethink what's possible for you?
I really love like I think there was one that I even heard recently that you can always tell how old a person is by the way that they talk. It's if they're somebody is always talking about the future or like what's possible, then that's a young person at heart, even if regardless
Ah,
of what their age is. But once a person starts talking about their past and constantly talking about their past, that person has already aged. So I
wow.
think I always try to keep that in mind as I'm even my outlook, like I'm always forward thinking.
Amazing. Question number four is what is one, I would say, either tip, hack, or ritual that is kind of a non-negotiable in life now that just I've that allows you to feel more vibrant now?
For me, it's hormone replacement therapy. I mean, I know we're going to get into it, but it's really the non-negotiable that like I would like take it to the desert island. Like if there was anything else I could take, that would be the only thing I would take.
The last question for you is how does Sarah want to be remembered?
How do I want to be remembered?
Mhm.
So I mean, I have a 10-year-old son, so I want to be remembered by him as like, I mean, I want him to be proud of what I'm doing and certainly like view me as in a way that's the most important thing is how he is certainly like seeing me. I mean, I know. I mean,
That's beautiful.
he's the only one that matters, like in terms of how I remembered.
Wow, beautiful. I have a 12-year-old bonus daughter, and I have a 4.5-year-old, and who I am to them is something that I truly resonate with and wanting to be a person that they can feel safe with and can grow with and so that they can become themselves with is truly special to me too. 5,000 points. You win the Five to Thrive. Thank you.
He's saying, you owe me dinner.
I do owe you dinner. So I want to dive into it right now. First, I want to talk a little bit about your medical training because, hormone optimization therapy is very different. I remember going through medical school myself in terms of understanding what was available and what was possible in women's health. I didn't feel like I got that training. So what what type of training did you have? And then what moments led you to step into the world of maybe integrative medicine and particularly diving into hormone optimization?
Yeah, thanks. But I mean, it's a good point. Like I didn't have any training on hormone in medical school or residency. I mean, I did engineering before starting medical school. Always had an engineering mind. I did clinical pathology, so developing laboratory testing and looking at more of like the science of medicine, kind of like a doctor's doctor. I did that for years. I did consulting for hospitals, looking at lowering healthcare costs, like looking at healthcare in a holistic picture, working with physician leaders to do that. So really my aha moment was that when I started going through problems myself, it really wasn't anything that I learned in medical school, wasn't working with any mentor or doctor. It never really been approached about longevity or anti-aging before. When I turned like in my 30s, looking back, I probably always had issues. And then it was after delivery of my child, which I think is really common that women don't feel the same after they have a child. And I realized that I didn't have the tools that I needed to make myself feel better. I developed autoimmunity, it was not healthy I should be feeling like a 35-year-old. I should feel I had my life set. I had my career, everything else that I wanted. And did not feel like young and vibrant that I was looking for. And so I started down the path of my own healing journey, realized that I learned nothing in medical school. And even the basics of autoimmunity or how to heal the immune system, we do not approach in medicine. Like everything that we do, we block processes. We don't look at the body to like give it an environment that it needs to like heal. This is not the approach that at least I learned in medical school. I tried everything that it was We're talking a lot about menopause and perimenopause now. 10 years ago, when I was going through it, nobody was talking about it. I felt like something was wrong with me. I felt alone. I didn't realize that it was pretty much what happened to 35-year-old women. And so I tried all of the products on the market and realized that we've been ignoring this problem for decades. We had no solution for a 35-year-old. When you look at the patches and the pills and lotus vaginal creams, or the traditional approach that we have for menopause, it's for 55 and above. It's for a woman who's no longer menstruating. We don't want to make her menstruate anymore. The products are not even, and then, so this is where this moment started, where I knew that I needed to make myself feel better. So the solution I have today were built out of necessity. It was strictly to make myself feel better. And that's where I found it to be extremely fascinating, though. How do you heal the immune system? How do you heal something that, like, I didn't want to take the pharmaceuticals. I wanted to do it in a way that made sense for me. And so that's where I started training specifically for peptide therapy, hormone therapy, and anti-aging, which you kind of have to do it outside of medical school. As you know, anybody that's done it does it outside. So I did all the modules and protocols. There's A4M, there's a lot of societies that offer it, but a lot of it was my own research and, undertaking of the science. When you look at the science, you really have to learn it.
It seems when we talk about menopause, perimenopause, and we're bringing up the age of 35, it seems awfully early at this juncture. Has there been anything that has changed in terms of how we've lived our lives or society as a whole that's causing women to potentially experience symptoms earlier in life?
It's a great question. I think we've always experienced them. So we have pinned this thing about a period and how it's important for women. And if you're still menstruating or having a period, then your hormones are fine. And women can not make any hormones and have a period for like a decade. And this does not mean that she's ovulating. It doesn't mean that she's like making any hormones. So even just using the word menopause and perimenopause pigeonholes and like puts us in this box that we don't call it andropause for men. We don't say that if you're still making sperm that your testosterone is normal. We don't tell them that you have to be over the age of 35 or 55 to start testosterone therapy. So like, why do we do it for women when we see like potentially women maybe always went through this? Like our ancestors died at age 35 and now we're having babies at age 35. So the ovaries were potentially never meant to work, and we're not having babies in our 40s. We never were. So why do we even think that we have hormones in our 40s? And 25-year-old man, if he needs testosterone therapy, we don't really question that. But we say, wow, 35-year-old woman struggling, that's really young. But like men, so I think that there's a little bit of society kind of like play here. I do think environmentally, the plastics, the pesticides, the fragrances, the chemicals, they bind the estrogen receptor. They're not binding to testosterone receptor, they're binding to the estrogen receptor and potentially making women infertile or making their hormones lower. The diets are potentially terrible. Maybe my diet, I think women tend to blame themselves, like taking birth control in our 20s. We don't know the impact that birth control has on these pathways. So a lot of things could be impacting this for women. And I see women all day long in their 20s that have really low hormone levels. So I don't know, it could be happening more, or it could be that we're recognizing it more, or they're both happening, right? So the women that are put on birth control at age 15 for a heavy period, are they now getting endometriosis at 28? Are we seeing this impact because of the birth control that we've been putting young women on? We don't know. You bring up a good point. Like what we should be looking at this and addressing it. Is it happening to women earlier, or are we just starting to now admit it that it's happening?
I could speak for my relationship and my partner. I know that, as women, you take on a lot. You take on, particularly if you are raising children, and if you desire to be a supportive partner and certainly create a life path of your own. There's so many things to kind of take on, and many women do feel sometimes the energy drain of taking on so much, and they feel, okay, well, maybe that's just the path of a woman, and it's normal to be feeling these things. And so, can you talk a little bit about maybe what are the symptoms that women are feeling, and what's normal, what's not normal during this time?
Yeah, it's so great that you bring it up because like women will say like, "Oh, I'm tired because of the kids. I don't want to have sex with my husband because I'm tired or like because of the kids or like there's always a reason
Yeah.
or I'm gaining weight like at this really slow pace because I'm not taking care of myself or something." So there's always a reason that they can come up with in their mind. I kind of and I do get this that women feel like, "Oh, I just need to slow down. I'm taking on too much. I'm trying to work and do the kids and my husband and like all the things or partner, whatever, all the things together." And I disagree with that personally. I think that I shouldn't have to slow down. I get the life I want and deserve. And if I want to have, like, if I want to be ambitious and do the career and the kids and everything, I should be able to feel and have the energy to do that. And we should be able to support women to do that. And we shouldn't tell them, you just need to like lower your stress level and your cortisol and you need to do less because that's what we were telling them. They're taking on too much and they think that actually it's like if you want to do it, you should. We should, as a doctor, I should be able to support you in just to be able to do the things that you want to do. But so we kind of say what's normal and what's normal. I think women need to understand that if they have one thing going on and it's just fatigue, okay, so maybe you are like needing to rearrange your schedule and like prioritize yourself more and take on less. But if you have several things going on, if you have fatigue, vaginal dryness, low libido, your hair is like getting thinner, your skin is getting drier, your brain is like fogging in the afternoon, you can't like think clearly, you have this slow weight gain, and no matter what you eat, like you can't work out as much, your exercises, like so when the things start piling up, it becomes hormonal because hormones impact every process in the body. And so you're going to see like lots of different things happen. And women are now thinking that they're unrelated. Well, how can my brain fog be related to my vaginal dryness? Or how is my hair loss related to my bones not being healthy? Like they don't consider, like they think of all of them very separate. But if we start thinking about that, you're missing the one, like the CEO of the body, which is the hormones. If they're missing, then you're going to see lots of things happen. So if as you're aging, women need to start like, okay, if you just have one thing, okay, so it could be just one thing in your life, but usually with a hormone problem, you're going to see food sensitivities. You're going to have to restrict your diet. Like early on, I see women, I can't eat anything. If I eat anything, I'm going to gain like 5 pounds the next day and I can't work out. Like they really see their diet having to change early on. These are early signs. This is a sign that digestion isn't as healthy as it used to be. Like these are signs of aging. If we start looking at that like it depends on how much you want to age, and aging doesn't have to be so bad.
So I'm hearing a couple of symptoms that might bring up some red flags: vaginal dryness, thin hair, low energy, lower libido. Is there any larger ones that you want to throw out there, just so that people who could be listening for this, whether they are in a relationship with a partner who's a woman or a woman who's listening to this herself right now?
I think women really see irritability and anxiety come on very early. So for mental health for women, it's huge. We need progesterone and estrogen for our brains to really feel calm and like centered. So that we get more angry with our boss. Women will be like, I'm slamming cupboards in the kitchen and yelling at my kids, and I don't know why. And I'm upset with my husband and I hate him and I don't know why. He's not doing anything wrong. So certainly men like get impacted by this, the partners, because they see their partners changing. And then, so this happens very early. This is very, I would say, universal. Women feel this kind of instability in their mood. They start to be depressed and like have this low mood. I think autoimmunity is like another really actually very common thing that happens to them. Like they get it, their immune system starts to wane and not be as strong. They get sick more often. They get sensitivities. They get all over their body and to food, and they don't attribute it to hormones. So even though it's very common. So these things happen early on. I would say like the mood is like, and it bothers women the most. Like when they can't think clearly and they can't work and they're fighting with their people that they love, this impacts them like greatly. Their job gets impacted, their relationships. I mean, we see like men, like it's like kind of criminal that we treat the men, like give them testosterone and Viagra, but we won't treat her. And it results in a lot of relationship issues. And you see like women will come into my clinic and sit down and be like, I hate my husband, literally. I don't know why. And it's like the thing that's kind of driving them, but they know it's a problem. Like they know that that's right and center in front of them. And lack of libido. It's there. And it's a health problem, not a relationship problem. And I think we need to normalize it for women that it's not their fault. They don't need to read a sexy novel. They don't need to like try to date their husband. They need to address like a health concern. Yeah.
So it really sounds like if you were speaking to a woman right now and she's like, "Oh yeah, I still have my periods. It can't be my hormones, but you know, I do find that I've got some of these symptoms. I'm going to a conventional, gynecologist and they want to put me on SSRIs instead and, address each one of these symptoms separately as independent variables and not considering the whole thing. What do you want them to know?"
I want women to know that one, the hormones are how critical they are for you to be healthy and that they're one of the most natural things you can do. So I know for me, I wanted something natural I'm a doctor, but I'm still don't think an SSRI for me was long term. Like, how am I going to impact me long term? And I had a lot of this anxiety and irritability, kind of this mood instability too. So I know that they're looking for a solution, but like we don't make herbs, for example. I know that women will kind of seek an herb out. They'll want something like a chasteberry or red clover. They'll kind of look into what we've been doing for centuries with herbs. And I would argue that we don't make turmeric in the body. We don't make black cohosh. We don't, these are not natural things, but the hormones we make and we're missing. So if women knew that how critical they are and how much they do in the body. And it's actually it's kind of like a food or a supplement. You're replacing something that you no longer are making. If we no longer made vitamin D or we would just take it. So why would we kind of think that these hormones would be any different? We should keep them optimal. They need so even if you're having a period, but you're being told that you're normal and that you're just aging is normal and this is the way to be a woman, I would argue that you should think twice about that. Like if nobody's going to tell you to wait until you have diabetes to treat the diabetes. Nobody waits till that you want to do this preventative. You want to keep your body in great shape. You shouldn't wait until that tipping point or till that very end because you should be wanting to prevent. You can't treat heart disease, really. You got to want to prevent it. Everything so this aging kind of concept, like if younger women knew in their 20s that they need to be at least watching out for it. Like, hey, it's coming for me. Is it going to be there's going to be a point where it tips and I need to be aware of that. And it's not when your period stops. I think that they think it's like 51. That's that they have in their mind. And 30-year-old isn't going to be thinking about it, but she should be.
Mm. What are some of the myths that you want to bust once and for all regarding hormone optimization therapy? And I think, we could probably touch on a few of those things, but I know some of the people that I've come across in the past, have attributed or have fears around, causing cancer or blood clots, et cetera. Can you address some of these myths and, also maybe cancer and blood clots?
Yeah, both of those. We can talk about those first. They're huge myths. And it's like estrogen has had the worst PR campaign ever. It's like as Mark, and there was the one original study that is really being talked about more, which is great. And even the FDA was meeting about it a couple of days ago about removing this black box warning. Looking at the data, it never showed a link. But as Mark Twain said, the lie can get halfway around the world before the truth can put its shoes on. And so this is exactly what happened with estrogen, and it was always blamed, and it still is. Women are told that. So I think one of the biggest myths is that estrogen is the cause of all the problems, that it's the dangerous one, that it causes the cancer and it causes the blood clots. And the body is more complex than that. If we, if it caused cancer and blood clots, every pregnant woman on the planet would be clotting and in the ER or have cancer. I think that we need to give the body a lot more credit than that. It's intelligent. And we also need to remember that progesterone plays a large role. So progesterone protects us against this clotting too and cancer. So, but the myth is been debunked that data never showed that. And even if it's there, let's just play and devil's advocate that there is a 1 in 10,000 risk of cancer, So let's say it's there. Nothing is risk-free, especially in medicine too. Everything has a risk and a benefit. The most dangerous thing you can do is get on the highway and drive in your car. But I'm never going to give up driving because the benefits outweigh the risk. And so when you look at something like HRT, even if there are some studies that show this, you could argue that they're poorly done or anything. But the idea is that the risk of heart disease is 1 in 3. 1 in 3 women will die of heart disease in the US. And then osteoporosis, Alzheimer's, dementia, urinary tract infections, the things that happen to women as they get older are way more common than cancer or blood clot. And we keep focusing on this very rare event, very rare, when the benefits of HRT have been shown to been proven to prevent all of these other things. So, but yet we keep focus. It's almost like we want to suppress women in a way that, like, with a little bit of fear. And I think that that's inappropriate because we don't do that with any other thing in medicine. We don't talk about like these really, really rare risks for these other drugs. We focus on like the benefits, right? So, but estrogen is the only thing that we've continuing to focus on a very rare event. And blood clotting is with oral therapy. So if you combine an oral estrogen with a synthetic progestin, which is a completely different thing than a hormone. These are not hormones, actually. They're just chemicals that are birth control. So I think when we talk about the risks, we need to talk about a clotting risk in the presence of birth control.
I hope you're enjoying the podcast so far. If you are, I just wanted to let you know, join our community. There's so many free resources and a great community of people that desire health, happiness, human potential, to have more in their life, more health, more energy. And when you have those two things together, you could create more happiness, more abundance, whether it be financial, romantic, all these things in your life. And if you're just starting out, you don't know where to go, just sign up for ThriveStateStarter.com, because in there you're going to get a bundle of information that includes a longevity ebook, a longevity and performance resource guide, lecture notes that come from my keynotes at Google, at Fortune 500 companies, all the insights in that keynote in lecture slide form given to you. And then finally, breathwork. I share 3 powerful breathwork exercises to access calm, which really gives you clarity and peace during the day, to access energy if you need to wake up and really motivate yourself, and finally a breathwork routine that you could do every single morning so that you could be very intentional with how you create that day. You can find all this stuff delivered free to your inbox at ThriveStateStarter.com. And our community is growing. If you want to be a part of a community of people that desire the Thrive State, that are really in Thrive State themselves, and help other people along with that, you could be a part of the community. You can get group coaching from me. We do breathwork sessions, meditation sessions, and you also get to drop in and participate in podcasts in the future. You could find more about the community at mythrivestate.com. That's mythrivestate.com. So check out those resources. You're not going to be disappointed. And please enjoy the remainder of this podcast.
Not hormone replacement therapy. So if women understood that hormone replacement therapy is not birth control, we need to, they're not being educated about what birth control really is, that these are chemicals, not hormones. And this is where the risk in the literature shows the risk for clotting is birth control. And even then, the benefit may outweigh the risk, because if you're trying to prevent pregnancy, it may be worth it, that risk for a clot, because it's safer than pregnancy for you. So, it's still, physicians need to have this kind of risk benefit that they're not. Like, they'll put a 15-year-old on birth control and not tell them about a risk of clotting at all. But they won't give a 40-year-old woman estrogen, but they'll just like lecture her about a risk of a clot. I mean, this is like, doctors are at fault here. Like, I really think we can do a lot better, and we need to be learning the literature. And, I think you would agree that our colleagues are not necessarily, it's not their field. Like, they don't need to be experts in everything. OBGYN can be an expert in surgery. Like, you need a surgeon, you need to deliver a baby. That's who you want to go to. You don't come to me for surgery or like to deliver a baby, so we certainly everybody can have their specialty, and it's okay. Like, I'm not going to advise on something that I don't know about, but we see doctors in conventional medicine advise on HRT all the time, and they don't have any idea, and they're very misinformed, and they're telling women the wrong things about stroke and cancer. So these myths are kind of being debunked, but women, there's a lot of misinformation that estrogen is not your problem. It's not it's not dangerous for you. It's your own hormone that's beneficial for you.
There are some comments and potential fears around the concept of having to take something for life. And so what is your answer to people that might be considering that line of thinking. And certainly, I don't agree with that kind of thinking, but how would you answer somebody with that kind of thinking? And then let's also talk a little bit about, is there an age that's too early to start hormone optimization or replacement therapy?
Such good points. Like I get it a lot. I hear, I don't want to start something that I have to take for the rest of my life. And there is they want to push it off to the until it's almost too, like, it's really kind of, they waited too long. Would you wait to start brushing your teeth? Would you wait? And I tell these people, like, would you wait to start eating a good diet? Would you wait to start taking vitamins? And so, no, of course, you're going to address like these health concerns very early on. And thank God I have something that I can take the rest of my life. Like, I am so happy that I actually have a solution that can make me feel like young and vibrant and amazing the rest of my life. Like, this is actually like a privilege that we have, like, you don't have to age I don't have to age the way that my mother and my grandmother did and watch them, like what they went through. And so I even hear women say that they're grateful that they also don't have to go through what they saw their mother go through. So you don't have to do anything. This is not a punishment. Like, taking progesterone and estrogen are going to make you feel great. They're not the punishment that you have to do the rest of your life. I think we need to kind of flip like you said, you don't think that way, but a lot of people do. They don't want to, but it's not a drug. I think that's also part of this misconception that I don't want to take a drug for the rest of my life. Well, this is not in a sense, we regulate it, which is great. You should actually be assured by it because of pharmacies making it and a doctor's prescribing it, and we have regulatory processes, so you know what you're getting. An herb and a vitamin do not do that. We don't even know if the herb is like the herb that it says it is because there's no regulation. So I think that it's great that it is, but it's not like a drug in the sense of some of the other drugs that we have that you would have to take. So kind of changing that perception helps. And then the other question you had was
age, is taking it too early, a bad thing? And, when should one start to consider doing it?
I think I think that if you're having issues and you're thinking about it, then it's something you need to be thinking about. Women that are feeling great are not going to be thinking about their hormones. It's not an issue for them. But we don't have to necessarily think of it either as once I get started, it's a forever thing, which I think is getting you trapped into this. So a woman that has PCOS or endometriosis in her 20s could potentially take HRT, like a bioidentical HRT, feel better in a couple of years, and then potentially even stop. Like, we see men take testosterone replacement therapy, they stop, they somehow maybe change, if they're younger, change their diet, change their lifestyle, bounce back or whatever. And so it's a temporary thing for them. We can do the same thing for women. They can do it in between pregnancies. It does not mean that once you start hormone replacement therapy that you're like done and you just have to continue it. So I think also changing that mindset, that it's not necessarily for everything. You could use it in stages of your life to make sure that you feel better and heal. Maybe you do figure it out, especially if you're younger, you're able to eliminate all the chemicals in your environment and change your diet and kind of, be able to get this ovulation back. Like, let's say you have birth control and you can't get recovered from that. You need to do the hormone replacement therapy for a while until you recover. Like, women will sometimes go through this for years trying to get their hormones back after birth control or something. Can we use HRT in a way that makes sense for these younger women that's not so long term? And then there's markers that might be more helpful, like FSH, for women that we're not using enough of. Can we tell a 30-year-old woman to follow an FSH like we do for thyroid? Some of these stimulating hormone markers longer, and then she can have a better idea of when that tipping point is going to happen for her. So if we're able to give her screening markers that like a FSH would be probably the best. And then if it's a normal and it continues to be normal, but she has all these problems, then we can ignore that test and get her started. But if she has, you know what I mean? It's something that a woman is just wondering if are there something she could follow a lab test, and potentially could be that. So she would know that it's not too early. Do you know what I mean? Like, so that it can help guide that. Yeah.
So for men who take testosterone replacement therapy, certainly, the younger they are, they do get counseled that potentially taking testosterone replacement therapy may lower their sperm count and decrease their possibility of being able to be fertile. So can we talk a little bit about fertility, particularly in the subset of women that are still of childbearing age, and how that affects their fertility?
Totally. And you nailed it. Like with men, We know that it's also a range of testosterone. Like potentially if we keep them in a lower range and then we don't have to suppress that sperm production. And injections versus creams, and there's different formulations that could potentially like help them. And we also can give them HCG. So if they're trying to maintain the fertility as well. So we have regimens in place for men to maintain fertility. We've not done this for women, and it's crazy that we haven't. So like really we have, but we know that from a lot of our internal studies that we don't suppress ovulation. Like women definitely get pregnant on HRT. And it's about this level. If you of course if you give a man too much testosterone, you're definitely going to suppress that. But if you give him enough, you don't. And also the studies show, and I've had a lot of patients too, that if you take the testosterone and you stop it, it's like 3 to 6 months, you can rebound and make that sperm again. It just really depends on a lot of different factors, but it will come back. Just like when women take birth control, that cycle, that feedback loop will come back. So you're not completely eliminating, or like women don't need to fear that you're going to not be able to get pregnant if you start HRT. And in fact, we use hormones to get women pregnant. Like just like some men don't make sperm if their testosterone's below a certain level. Like it has to be a certain level in order to make sperm. So we need it's like a catch. It's like a double-edged sword where if you have too much of the hormone or exogenous hormone, you become infertile. But we need the hormone to get pregnant too. So, or like, for conception and fertility. So women, vaginal progesterone and estrogen have been used for a long time in conventional medicine to get women pregnant. So I don't think women need to. Yes, there is a point, and we can follow markers and ovulation to make sure that we're not suppressing that. So women don't necessarily need to fear that. Like they actually need to be more afraid of taking birth control and impacting that pathway, probably than hormone replacement therapy. That it's okay if you're 30 and you don't know if you're going to have a second kid. It's okay that you potentially could take the HRT and still get pregnant at 35 if you decide to have a second child, which we talk a lot of women that don't know. They don't know their family planning yet, but they want to make sure that it's okay. And you may even potentially protect the ovaries and uterus with progesterone as well, right? Like you're trying to maintain that healthy lining and implantation for the egg. So I think the hormones we need to understand them, not fear them.
So, in the biohacking and anti-aging world, I think many audiences understand that in order to get some of these therapies, they're really kind of taking control of their own health and willing to place money out of their own pocket to do things that are outside conventional medicine. So say a woman listens to this podcast and is really interested in discovering this on their own, but where they typically went to go see, or receive medical care is through their insurance and through their conventional doc that might be giving them potential malinformation, as it pertains to their symptoms and hormones. So if somebody's interested in potentially getting hormone replacement therapy and starting to have these symptoms, where should they go? It sounds like potentially maybe even saying no to their regularly scheduled insurance-based provider. How do they find somebody that has the proper training to assist them through this process?
That's good. Like just like you would go to a specialist if you broke your knee or your leg or something, you'd go to a specialist for that. You don't go to, and I think the difference is women have OBGYNs that they kind of rely on to do everything for them, check their thyroid and check their labs. And it's not they have a role, but that's not the specialist. And men don't have that. So when men decide that they want testosterone, they search it. I'm going to go for the testosterone replacement therapy specialist. And then they go to somebody who's trained in that. Women need to do the same thing. There's a lot of providers who do anti-aging and longevity and are knowledgeable enough to counsel and educate, do labs or not do labs or whatever they need to do. They're not going. And so they just need to research it online and find somebody in their clinic. And it's true that a lot of these providers are cash pay because the insurance doesn't see this as like a disease or necessary to treat or anything like that. And so they will cover some of the therapies, but again, those are the therapies that are not as effective, like a patch and a pill and those low-dose vaginal creams that are covered by your insurance. They're not going to be like that best thing. That's just, you get what you pay for. I think that's like, this is the moral of this is you do get what you pay for. And it can be, this longevity it doesn't have to be that expensive. If you get like wrapped up into a physician who's ordering a lot of lab tests, for example, and making you come back every 3 months to get those lab tests, you can be careful with that and get somebody that makes sense. But and online, there are some options as well. So that really have not as much gatekeeping, for example, that are a little bit more affordable. Hopefully insurance, like, I mean, I think eventually insurance will cover any form of HRT for women. Yeah, I think it's coming. So, but they don't do it for men, for example. Like, but I think men actually have the same problem with insurance coverage. But you'll spend like women will spend like hundreds of dollars on face cream a month. They'll $100 on like, I won't say the company's names, but like hair loss vitamins and just like a lot of vitamins that are hundreds of dollars a month. So this is actually more effective. An HRT, it's the foundation. You get more bang for your buck if you just see a physician and get on HRT and feel well. You're not going to spend a fortune on gut supplements or trying to heal your gut or lower your cortisol or make these face creams that'll make your wrinkles go away or Botox or fillers. I mean, look at all the stuff that women do to try to feel better and look better. This is actually more affordable. For if you just do HRT and pay out of pocket for it, you're going to spend less overall. And then, being well and paying for that is much cheaper than being sick. Like you should try how expensive it is to be sick and then try to fix that. So paying out of pockets really, it doesn't sound that bad when you put it that way.
Yeah, last question before we dive into where people can find you. But, for men and hormone replacement therapy, it's been such a booming market, and there are many clinics that have opened up that don't even have a physician that's overseeing the clinic. When women are looking this stuff online and trying to find a reputable provider for hormone, replacement therapy, what are the things that they should be looking for so that they know that, the treatment that they're getting is, on par with the highest standards?
That's good. Like working with a licensed provider that has the training in anti-aging. I don't think we're quite there yet with the testosterone in the same degree. The women don't have like these kind of clinics doing it without oversight. There's a little bit of oversight, but also working with the reputable pharmacy. So compounding pharmacy that is like a national pharmacy that tests and does third-party testing, for example, or even some of them are FDA inspected, right? Some of them are FDA approved compounding pharmacies. So the partner pharmacy matters as well. So making sure that the physician is using a pharmacy that makes sense and not just you get a lot of variability when you're using some of the smaller ones in like smaller towns, for example, you're going to get a different like experience with those. So I would say the pharmacy matters as much as the provider, and the provider knows what they're doing there. When you're looking online, you say that company should be showing like that credentials and that process they're doing, so you can trust it and definitely follow up. So if you don't want to just buy like a hormone replacement therapy and not be followed, you may have to make changes or you might have side effects. So certainly like a care team that would make sure that you're okay on it. So keep that in mind but even then, like those are going to be very like just mostly creams that aren't that effective. If they have no follow-up, they're probably not going to work anyway.
So what states do you service, and how do people find out more about you and your work online?
We're in 47 states now, and we'll soon be in all 50. We do have an online offering we have providers as well as a care team that follows you. So we have a different formulation. Our product is innovative and new, and it's meant to be easier, and it's meant to be like to take away this like idea of having to do 4 or 5 different products at one time. So it is systemic and whole body. It's meant to like raise your levels in very predictable levels, and you can get started. So, and we get all the time, like, how do you know what to start me at? How come you don't do labs? And I know we don't have time to get into that, but it's like it's just, you can just try it too and get started, and we follow you. So if you don't do well or you need an adjustment, that's the best way to do HRT, because you're not going to be able to know until you try it. Unfortunately, it's one of those things you kind of have to just get started on and try it and kind of go down that path. And maybe you've already tried different HRTs and they haven't worked for you, and this would be something to try. So you can we're at innerbalance.com. And you can even ask us questions like on the website. We're happy to answer them. Our social platforms do have a lot of education materials, and we're happy to just even provide the information that you're looking for as you're doing research.
Amazing. Last question for you before we go. Of everything you've experienced in life thus far, what has been your best medicine?
My best medicine was really my son. Like having him, and this is like, no, I mean he's really like been, yeah. Like the kids are like amazing, right? So I don't think I would knew that until you do it. But he's been like that for sure. So and he led me to my path now that I am. Like in reality, like I don't think I would have been so like, and trying to feel better at the time too. So I even have like give him a little bit of credit and kudos for like me coming across like all the stuff, the cool stuff and things that I get to do today were because of like him too, kind of indirectly. So
Amazing. Dr. Sarah, thank you for your time, your wisdom, and for sharing you on the Thrive State podcast.
thanks for having me.
I hope you enjoy that episode of the Thrive State podcast. And if you're finding that this content is really helping you and your family members, please consider supporting our mission and our cause of elevating health, happiness, and human potential for people all over the world. You can do so by making sure that you have subscribed to this podcast, sharing it with your friends and family members, and leaving us a 5-star review wherever podcasts are heard. All these things are going to really help elevate the show and to give us the resources to continue to bring more content just like this to yourself as well as the people that you love. If you haven't already, you might want to consider joining our community. We actually have a community where people get to engage with me in group sessions where we do breathwork, meditation, where we do challenges together, really to be able to get us access to health, happiness, human potential, so that we could have longevity and performance in our life as well. You can check out our community at mythrivestate.com. That's mythrivestate.com. And if you haven't already, pick up a copy of my book, Thrive State. It really gives you all the tools, the pillars that you need to create a blueprint to control the energetics of your life. Who are you? How you show up in the world? The choices that you consistently make create an energy in your body, and you can control this. And when you can control that, you also control the messages you give to your DNA that gives you access, again, to optimal health, longevity, and peak performance. And let me also just share a free gift to you. If you haven't already, please pick up my longevity and performance bundle where I share lecture notes, ebooks, breathwork exercises, and longevity and performance resources at thrivestatestarter.com. Thank you so much for being a part of this community. Thank you for helping us grow. Remember always, my friends, that you are your best medicine.